first speaker, Daniel. I'm going to read this bio. We posted this on the Facebook page, but I'm just going to read it to you all. So Daniel serves as the Director of Student Diversity and Inclusion Center at Westminster College. He earned his bachelor's degree in mass communication and a Master of Education in Educational Leadership and Policy from the University of Utah. During his time at the University of Utah, he was also a community activist working on several campaigns on immigration, driving privilege cards, and supporting farm workers during the tomato boycott of 2004. Daniel moved to Chicago and received a second master's degree in policy studies from the University of Illinois at Chicago. His scholarship focuses on how college students negotiate social change and bystander interventions in the age of neoliberalism. Exciting. While in Chicago, Daniel was closely involved in efforts to save public education by serving with the community organization Teachers for Social Justice. He is also a violence prevention educator on issues of sexual assault and domestic violence. Daniel's areas of expertise include social justice education, diversity, equity and inclusion, intergroup dialogue, interpersonal violence prevention education, bystander intervention education, and student leadership and engagement. So I'm going to let him talk instead of me. Here we go, Daniel.
Thank you for having me. Now I feel bad that that's longer than my talk. But if you want to know more, no, so I mean, I'm so happy to be here. I mean, everything that you said at the beginning, I'm actually starting to feel like the themes that are going to resurface, which is why we're here. I think this is a really particular, it's a good moment to be socially engaged right now. So thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting James for running for Senate. I'm really excited for it. So I'm just going to take a couple minutes and talk about three things. I had this whole speech written out, and I was like, no, let's just focus it. So there are three things I want to make sure that we leave here with. And that is, we have to talk about Hatch. We're going to talk about, we're going to talk about the current political moment. But more importantly, I really want to mention why is it that I'm supporting James Singer for senator. So when I was 16 years old, my adopted dad and I worked closely with Senator Hatch. This was back when Senator Hatch was a vigorous supporter of the DREAM Act. I used to look up to Hatch in admiration for going to bat for those who needed him the most. Back in 2000 and 1999 was actually like he was coming to support undocumented immigrants, specifically children like myself. Over time, like many of you, I became disillusioned and frustrated with the senator. Not only did he do a complete reversal of the DREAM Act, but his willingness to shut down the government to defund Planned Parenthood is unacceptable. Washington knows very well that federal monies are not used for abortions, legal abortions, may I add, but they don't care. This is an attack on women and reproductive health care. Hatch voted to confirm Betsy DeVos, which was another major blow. Confirming DeVos was a deliberate disregard for our communities and part of the massive redistribution of wealth that defunds public education and lines the pockets of corporations and vulture capitalists that are wanting to win big with our education system. His comments about climate change are alarming, especially knowing the direct impact that climate change is having in Utah. And not to mention that he's continuing the colonial project by continuing to support the taking of native lands and handing them over to oil companies. That is unacceptable. That man does not represent us. And by his own standards, he has been in Washington way too long. He said it, not us, right? We're like, yes, you're right. Go home, right? But we're living in a particular political moment that demands that we look broadly at the injustices happening in our community. The injustices that are happening in plain view of social media, public policy, executive orders, and the inaction from our representatives in Washington. We continue to see the faces of black men and women murdered at the hands of police and those who swore to protect them. The latest was the homicide of Jordan Edwards. Police brutality, Islamophobia, transphobia, mass incarceration, and inhumane deportations are unacceptable. Those incarcerations are happening especially to black and brown males, black and brown individuals, to undocumented immigrants. And this is also alarming to me because this incarceration is big gains for private prisons. That's the world we live in now. People are making money of the incarceration of our brothers and sisters. But here's the thing, let's not forget about the face of white supremacy. It is organizing, they're murdering people, they're committing hate crimes, all in full and public knowledge. I'll add that they can rebrand it the all right, all they want, but they're not fooling anyone. It's the KKK. We need to call it for what it is, right? It is injustice, it is hate crime, and it is unfair. I could go on about the list of injustices, but you know them too. You see them on your social media. We see them happening outside of our doors. And so I'm going to change the tone a little bit. The world is changing. It is heavy. It is exhausting at times. But then I meet people like James. And I laugh because I have the best conversations with you. This is the guy who can walk into your office and have dope conversations about systems of inequality. And by dope, I mean like we're connecting the dots, right? Like I love, where's the gentleman who just spoke, right? I love that you all met at the beginning of, a wage conversation. Like all these pieces connect. We are no longer and can no longer be single issue activists. We can no longer be civically engaged only to increase voter turnout. That is important, don't get me wrong. Like, let's get out there and let's vote. But it has to go beyond that, right? We need to connect with what is happening in the world, but also see the opportunity for positive social change. James helps me keep in mind that our social engagement is not just about the election or this campaign to retire Hatch. This is about us. This is about the us that continues after the election cycle is over. It is about our homes, our schools, our healthcare, our families, those people that we love. James represents what I love most about this country, and that is knowing that together we can achieve great things. Yes, we've heard the slogan before. Yes, we've heard the rhetoric, but I believe it. That's how we get things done. We've done it before and we'll do it again. With some baby steps, we can recreate that positive social change that we need right now. And that is electing representatives that work for us. So let's start knocking on doors. Let's sign up to volunteer. There's a volunteer sign-up sheet back there. Yes. Let's help fundraise and get the message out. This moment is to amplify our voice and our strength. And let's start that by electing James Singer as our next senator.
Awesome. Thank you.